For the last 2 years, we have been heavily involved with the PACER lab involving this topic of exercise intensity and image recall. We've had participants come in and partake in a VO2 max test, and then on different days come back in and exercise at 40, 60, and 80% of their VO2 max. Directly after this, we've had them recall images that they have seen before. We found that there was a correlation between the 60% group and image recall when there was time lapse between the exercise. There was no difference between the participants' groups of the 40, 60, and 80% when there was no time directly after exercise.
Throughout the exercise, we asked the participants for 2 different subjective responses using 2 different scales. The first scale we used was Rating of Perceived Exertion, or RPE. This is a 12-point scale, with 6 being no exertion and 20 representing maximal exertion. This is a common scale that is used for exercise physiology and is actually considered a standard mechanism for measurement in this type of research. The other subjective response we measured was the participants' scores in SAM, which is a self-assessment mannequin, which measures their emotional responses in valence, which is their happiness and sadness, their arousal levels, and their dominance, or whether or not they feel in control of the situation. So what the participants would do would rate themselves on a 5-point scale using an image or a mannequin that would correlate with their emotional responses.
The results for RPE were that as exercise intensity increased, RPE increased as well. So for the high intensity group, they had the highest RPE and compared to the low and moderate exercise intensity groups. For SAM, it was seen that the highest intensity group rated the lowest scores and the high or low intensity groups had the lowest scores. For valence, the high intensity group had the highest rating as this was unpleasant, and the lowest scores were seen among the low intensity groups. For arousal, the high intensity group had the highest ratings as they were more excited, and the low intensity groups had the lowest average scores. For dominance, the high intensity group had the highest ratings as they felt that they were being dominated, and the low intensity group had the lowest rating as they felt as they were dominating. However, it is important to note that this is not on one extreme or the other, that there is a middle rating. As for dominance, you can feel completely normal and you can feel as if you're not being dominated or dominating.
Overall, it was determined that the 80% group had significantly different emotional responses and states than the lesser intensities. This information can be used for many practical applications such as exercise prescription, adherence to exercise, and the mood of a participant during exercise. One practical example to give you a better description of it is for exercise adherence. If you start an exercise intensity for an individual who isn't used to exercising and you start them off with high intensity exercise, they are more likely to have a dropout rate because they are likely to have lower dominance levels and feel less control of themselves or the workout itself, but also have a lower valence rate as well. Therefore, we can use this information to properly prescribe certain workouts for individuals who are starting exercises.